And we're back here on the GSMC Baseball Podcast, bringing you our second segment, which is going to be talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and if the Blue Jays should or shouldn't trade him. We're moving into the second segment here, as I said. But before we do that, I'd like to ask you again to please like and follow the show. We do get a number of questions from viewers, so to ensure that your question does get read in the air, please use the link at gsmcpodcast.net. It really does help the show. It really does mean a lot, so thank you so much for that. And let's get back into the show for today. All right, so as I said, our second topic is going to be about to trade or not to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. Now, this is what I titled the segment. I thought it would be, kind of cool, kind of fun. And I did this yesterday, of course, with Mason Miller and Tarek Skubal, two players who it is a very interesting debate if their team should end up trading them or not. With Miller, I said yes. Tarek, I said no. Both those are on the channel from last night. So if you want to watch those and give your opinion, leave a comment, please do that. Please go ahead. I thought they were pretty good. So now I'll be doing this with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., so I want to get into it. So heading into this deadline, I think one of the big questions has been asked is, are the Blue Jays going to blow it up? Are they going to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? And should they trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? So I'm going to answer all these questions today. Should they? Are they? And if they should, why? So first off, we have to answer the first question. Should the Toronto Blue Jays trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr.? Now, my particular answer, without a doubt, in my opinion, I feel very confident that this is the right answer. I think the Blue Jays should 100% trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I think that it's time to move on, and it's time for both of them to part their ways, and I think that, honestly, I think the Jays should completely blow this team up. And I think trading Vladimir Guerrero Jr., your franchise star, one of the biggest names in baseball because of how good he is, because of the marketability, because of who his father was, he has a lot of value, and you can jumpstart this rebuild today if you trade him. Now, it's a very hard thing to want to trade Vladimir Guerrero Jr. because, again, he's a face of your franchise, is a great guy, is a great ambassador for the game, I'm sure any team would love to have him as your face of your franchise. He's a fantastic all-star MVP caliber player when he's at his best. But I think, again, it's time for the Blue Jays to move on and trade him. The reason I think this is because, in my opinion, the Blue Jays need to rebuild. If I'm the Blue Jays, I am blowing this team up, blowing this core up, and I'm starting fresh. I'm completely tanking, and I think everything needs to be gone. And the way to start with that is trading your franchise icon in Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I say this with 100% sincerity that you could get a haul, an absolute haul for Vladimir Guerrero Jr. A franchise-changing haul, a rebuild-changing haul. You could get something that completely would change the course of your rebuild right now. You look at this future and you look at this team. You have two top prospects. Ricky Tiedemann, a left-handed starting pitcher who has been a top prospect for a little bit now, has never really made the transition to the MLB eventually. Only has 8 games started here at AAA, has a 5 ERA, and has dealt with some arm problems. He's a question mark. Orelvis Martinez, a very good middle infield bat who just got suspended for 80 games for PEDs. So it's not exactly like you have any top prospects coming up the wazoo that are going to, really just help your team immediately. So I think if you're the Jays and you're looking at this and you're looking at it, objectively as a fan or something, you should be able to say, this team needs to rebuild. We need to start fresh. And I think that's exactly what they need to do. And I think trading, again, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is the start of that. There are a lot of teams that will give up a ton for Guerrero, and it makes a lot of sense why. I mean, he's an all-star caliber player, was an all-star this year. When he's at his fully his best, he can win the MVP, which we've seen him in the conversation for that just a few years ago. There's a year and a half left to control. You're able to extend him. He's said he's very open to extending with any team. So as much as it would hurt, he needs to be the one that you trade off and start this rebuild. Now, I think the question we have to ask about this is, how did this happen? The Blue Jays look like a great young team in the past few years that was able to, that we looked at maybe as a potential dynasty going forward. How did that young team turn into this, a team that we now think should absolutely just tear it all apart and rebuild? Well, there's 2 reasons for me. First off is, just simply put, bad moves. And I want to look at a few. So, in the offseason of 2023, which was last year, Blue Jays made a ton of moves that were able to help their team. Well, supposedly. They wanted them to help their team, let's just say. In that offseason, the Blue Jays were looking for, balancing out their lineup with left-handed hitters and getting better defensively. So in that case, they shipped out 3 players. They shipped out Teoscar Hernandez to Seattle. They shipped out Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno to Arizona. In exchange for that, they got Dalton Varsho and signed Kevin Kiermaier. They also acquired Eric Swanson, but he's not part of the offense, so I'll just mention him a little bit later. So with the offense now, you're trading away Teoscar Hernandez, Lourdes Gurriel Jr., and Gabriel Moreno. Well, what happened immediately after that? Teoscar Hernandez, yes, he struggled in Seattle, but this year now signed a 1-year deal with Los Angeles and was maybe the best bang for your buck free agent signing of the entire offseason. It's been absolutely incredible and just won the home run derby. Lourdes Gurriel Jr. and Gabriel Moreno last year had incredible seasons for Arizona. Gurriel signed an extension. Moreno looked to be the future all-star catcher of that team, and both led them to the World Series, where they were 3 wins away from winning it all. And Kevin Kiermaier was Kevin Kiermaier, a fine bat who plays great defense, but nothing more than that. And Dalton Varsho, a guy who you expected to play amazing defense out there in the outfield and be a great bat, played great defense, but didn't really hit. So you substituted 3 really good hitters for 2 mediocre hitters who happen to be left-handed and play defense. And the catching situation was also different because you expected, when you traded Gabriel Moreno, the reason was because you had 2 other great catchers, Alejandro Kirk and Danny Jansen. So you were like, okay, as much as Moreno is a top prospect in baseball, we're able to ship him out because we have this catching depth. Well, what happens now? Well, Danny Jansen, who had a solid season last year, don't get me wrong, has not been great this year and is a pending free agent. And Alejandro Kirk has never really become the hitting bat that we expected him to carry on. I mean, he had some great seasons, but you're looking at it this year, it's bad. Last year he had a 90 weighted runs created plus, and this year he has a 76. So he never really continued to be the bat that you expected him to be. So that's also just bad moves there. I think bad moves that really affected the course of your franchise and are now leading you to this dark abyss of a rebuild. Also, underperformance. Bo Bichette has been really bad these past 2 years. Kevin Biggio just got DFA'd and traded to the Dodgers. So the young players you expected to build around really didn't do as well as you expected. So that's also the problem. And that happens to a lot of teams, but it happened on a large scale to this Blue Jays team. So if I'm them, I'm trading basically everyone who I don't see as an immediate part of my future. Basically everyone on a 1 to 2 year contract, I'm trading. And I think they can get a lot back, be able to infuse this team with young talent, and kind of get this rebuild going. The thing is also, you look at this AL East. The Orioles are going to be a future dynasty. The Yankees are always good. The Red Sox are doing really better. The Rays are kind of a question mark. But those 3 teams don't look to be going anywhere anytime soon. They look to be, continuous presences in that AL East. And for the Blue Jays, they just simply put don't have enough talent to keep up with it right now. And if you're looking at this Blue Jays team, if they really want to blow this team up, which I think they should, because simply put, again, I don't think they're good enough to win anything. And I don't think they're even good enough to make the playoffs. So they're just right now extremely mediocre. And they have a lot of people that you can end up trading. And a lot of people that you can end up potentially, getting a lot back for. Kevin Gausman, I think, would be someone that gets a haul back. A Cy Young caliber pitcher when he's fully healthy. Chris Bassett, a great pitcher on a contract with only his 1 year left after this. Yusei Kikuchi, potentially the best rental pitcher on this market. Jordan Romano, a great bullpen arm. Chad Green, a really solid bullpen arm. Yami Garcia, Eric Swanson, Genesis Cabrera, Nate Pearson, all very solid bullpen arms. Danny Jansen, rental catcher, get a lot back. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. can get a franchise altering callback. I'm realizing now that I haven't spent much time talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and if they should end up trading him, but I kind of went on a full path of the Blue Jays instead. Justin Turner, really nice rental bat for a team. I'm sure a lot of teams would like to have him. After that, Isaiah Kiner-Falefa, really nice bench bat for a lot of teams. Bo Bichette, you are selling him at his lowest value, which might be a problem, but still, very solid shortstop when he is fully at his abilities. You also have Kevin Kiermaier, very solid rental bat. George Springer, if you can get the hell off his contract, you do that immediately. So, there's a lot you can get back for this Blue Jays team and end up blowing it up. And to just go back with Vladimir Guerrero Jr., there are a lot of teams I think would end up giving a haul for him. I think the Astros are especially one team who need a superstar first baseman and could definitely do it. I think that would make a lot of sense. Looking at it as well, I think the Cubs maybe could divert their process and get Vladimir Guerrero Jr., even though they said they're selling because of how good he is. The Mariners have been continuously marked with Guerrero, and I think it makes a ton of sense there as well. The Pirates, if they really want to make a big splash, can end up getting Guerrero. There are so many teams that could use Guerrero's bat with how good he is, with how marketable he is, and he's really someone I'm watching at this deadline. I don't think he ends up getting moved by this Blue Jays team, but I think he should be. And if I'm them, I'm rebuilding this team. I'm blowing it up. I just don't think this core is good enough to win anything, and I think really their time has been spent at the top, and it's time to look towards the future. And you can get a lot of prospects back if you really blow up this team, and it'll be very exciting to see if they do. And they could really turn the whole deadline into a loop. So that is our second segment here, talking about Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and the Toronto Blue Jays. We're moving into our third segment, which is going to be talking about James Paxton and his DFA by the Los Angeles Dodgers, something that broke on my show yesterday, and I was able to just talk about it a little bit, saying it'll probably be a segment tomorrow because it was very surprising to me. And guess what? It is. So we'll be talking about that, and we'll see you after the break. So thanks, and bye.
Looking for your daily fix of sports